this year's meeting, which concluded only a few hours ago, the feature attractions were the Dream Mile with Steve Cram, John Walker and company, and the women's 10,000 metres. Now, the athlete who's placed a reserve on this distance is Norway's greatest Ingrid Christiansen. In the early stages of the race, she suffered severe stomach cramps and was forced to withdraw for a short time. But her courage saw her back in the race in second place, but desperately chasing the Commonwealth champion Liz Lynch, now Liz McColgan. Alan Parry and Steve Ovett are the commentators.
Christiansen, the greatest sporting hero in Norway, and I've never seen her in trouble like that before in a race. Peter Matthews, the pace, as I was saying, has slowed substantially, but what matters now for McColgan is a famous victory.
It has slowed substantially. They're at world record pace for the first 3 kilometres, but Liz McColgan should nonetheless smash her British record if she can keep this going and produce a decent last lap. Her British record, the time to look out for, 31 minutes 19.82, and as you can see, she's under the 30-minute mark at the lap time to go, so certainly she's going to break it. Only 2 women in the history of the sport have broken 31 minutes before, Ingrid Christiansen and Olga Bondarenko, and Liz McColgan will get close to that.
And Christiansen, who is hardly ever beaten at whatever distance she tackles, is now on her way to a second defeat in a week against the Scots girl. Steve Ovett, what a performance by Liz.
Yes, and I think if you watch Liz now, she's really motoring down that back straight. She kept with Christiansen in the early pace when it was below world record pace. I think Christiansen threw everything she had at Liz, and I think in the end, desperation when she pushed herself too hard, and Liz was always there all the time. When Liz went past her, we saw Christiansen try and hang on for another couple of laps, and then she dropped out. The psychological advantage of this girl now, Liz McColgan, over the great Ingrid Christiansen going into an Olympic Games at 10,000 must be tremendous.
What matters is the day in Seoul when the 10,000 metres final comes around. Liz knows that, but that smile of satisfaction tells you that that is a very important stepping stone on the way to Seoul.
Well, the clock didn't stop, but it was only just over 31 minutes. That's the 3rd fastest time in the history of women's 10,000 metre running.
A brilliant victory then for Liz McColgan. And I suppose the question has to be, Steve, as Ingrid Christiansen really painfully comes across the line and sportingly shakes the hand of McColgan, the question has to be, is it too much, too soon?
No, I don't think so. I think Liz is in great shape at the moment, and she probably won't run another 10,000 between now and the Olympic Games. So I think she wanted to prove a point to Ingrid Christiansen, the only real danger I think that she may have in the Olympics, and she certainly proved that by defeating Ingrid twice, as you say, in a week. That is a tremendous psychological advantage.
I'm really pleased with the way I ran tonight. You know, this was a major part of my preparation for the Olympics, and you know, it couldn't have went better. It's given me a lot of confidence now going into the Olympics.
Well, I mean, coming here, she's never ever been beaten over 10,000 metres, and you are obviously very, very determined to change that trend.
Yeah, I feel now that, you know, I'm at the stage now where, you know, I'm up with the top in the world now, and I'm there to beat people. And, you know, I think tonight proved the point, and that people, you know, need to really watch out now for me coming through.
World record holder at 78 metres 90, and there it goes. Oh, tremendous. Again, around about the 75-metre mark. An area that only Petra Felker and Fatima Whitbread have ever approached. Felker, whose next competition will be in the Peugeot Games at Crystal Palace next Friday, once again in magnificent form, 75.16. Cardiff's Colin Jackson won the World High Hurdles bronze medal last year, but this year has showed at the age of 21 that he's still improving. Last Monday in Belfast, he smashed the British record. He stopped the photo cell beam with his head at 13.20, and the actual photo finish time was 13.23. Still took 0.06 of a second off John Ridgeon's record. 4 years ago, Carl Lewis won 4 gold medals in Los Angeles. 100 metres, 200 metres, sprint relay and long jump. He's on track to bid strongly for a repeat showing this year in Seoul. In Lille on Monday, he ran the 100 metres in 9.95. Slightly wind assisted, but very impressive, smooth sprinting. He celebrated his 27th birthday yesterday, and as we can see again, he really does flow down the track. Lewis has lost the title of world's fastest man to Ben Johnson over the past 2 years. However, Johnson's had a troubled start to the year, pulling up in his first race, and he's fallen out with a man who's coached him since he started sprinting 10 years ago, Charlie Francis. Fatima Whitbread threw 70 metres at the start of her season in Derby, but since then has lost the major competitions, once to Felker, twice to Tessa Sanderson. She was obviously in trouble, not only with a shoulder injury, but now we know that she has glandular fever, which always has a debilitating effect. And last week, she had an operation for an abscess on her lower back. She's making a good recovery from that, and we all wish her a speedy return to the best of health, and in due course, a return to the superb form that has taken her to the world title.
Tim Simon of the United States in 1, the US champion. Derek Redmond in 2. Robert Hernandez of Cuba, the world's fastest this year, in 3. Sean Labour in 4. Miles Murphy, the brilliant new Australian, in 5. And Tiago on the Ivory Coast in lane 6. A very stiff test for Derek Redmond in his first big race of the season. He's had a hamstring problem as well. Terrific start made by Murphy, in fact, the Australian, who disappointed us when we saw him for the first time in Belfast, but he really has run a storming first 200 there. And in the middle, Sean Labour, the tall East German in those long blue shorts. There he is, right in the centre. Also going very well there, number 41, Hernandez, the 21-year-old Cuban. Redmond trying his best to match this finishing speed of men who've had a much sharper beginning to the season than him. Hernandez it is who'll win it. A very good run by Redmond to take 3rd place behind Sean Labour, with Simon of the United States in 4th. But look at the 2 red vests of the Soviet Union trailing the 2 leaders. They have to be feared, particularly the great Samolenko, number 306. We saw her recently in Portsmouth looking very sharp over 800 metres, so we know she's got the finishing speed. But Wade has positively gone out in front with 200 to go. Lynn Williams is tiring, so it's the 2 Soviets waiting to pounce. Samolenko in 2nd place. Artyomova, who has the yellow track shoes, distinguishable from Samolenko. She's 3rd. And Wade, if she dared to look over her shoulder, would see one of the great finishers in women's athletics poised to pounce. And there she goes now, Samolenko. Can Kirsty hold on for what would be a very good 3rd? One of the Romanians, Constantin, finishing very fast as well. But Kirsty Wade will get a good 2nd place here behind Samolenko. She just held on as Artyomova closed on her and took 3rd place. The French national champion, Laurence Billy, wears 74 and runs in lane 3. She met Portadan in the European Cup final a year ago and was beaten. But this is the athlete we're all looking forward to seeing. The great Heike Drechsler, world 100-metre silver medalist. The girl with the marvellous range of events. Lane 5 is empty. Olsen of Norway fills lane 6. Drechsler, a contender for Olympic medals at 100, 200, and in the long jump, and in outstanding form already this season. And a brilliant start too by the long-legged blonde East German there. Drechsler in lane 4, already stamping her authority on this race. Magnificent sprinting by Drechsler. Danette Young coming through for 2nd place, and I think it was Laurence Billy who took 3rd. 10.91, the clock stopped that, and if that's confirmed, then Heike Drechsler has equalled the fastest she's ever run. So no wonder the smile. Drechsler still trying to work out the permutations of her range of possibilities in the Olympic Games, and hoping that the timetable will allow her to go for as many events as possible. The bell for the leading group. Barrios has got himself back in front, and it's a question of who has those last dregs of strength left. Any one of the 4 could win it.
Come on, Eamon, I think he's on the shoulder, and I think he really wants to get up there. He's taking it. Come on, I think if he gets the last 300 metres in, we could be in with a fantastic performance and a debut at 10K.
Watch for Antibo, the Italian, who's picked up a place. Funzer, I think you can forget him. He's really struggling. Barrios isn't out of it yet. Eamon Martin has got a vital gap on. He's strong. He's been running well over 1,500 metres. He's getting away, and it's a fantastic performance. Can he hold on? It's hurting, but he wants this one badly, and I think he's going to get it. He looks over his shoulder, and he knows he's done it. Keep an eye on that clock. The British record, 27:30.3. It stood for 10 years, but it's gone tonight to Eamon Martin. A brilliant performance. And that, remember, is the first time he's run the distance on the track. Magnificent.
And incredibly, a 26.4 last 200 metres off that pace. Absolutely fantastic.
And Ian Hodge, our statistician, tells me also that that lifts him to 5th on the 10,000 metres all-time list. As I said a few laps ago, he was on course for one of the most dramatic debuts in the history of this event, and he went and achieved just that. And here's the full lineup then, 12 men. Bealey, Cram, Herold, the brilliant young East German, Cram from Britain, Scott, one of the most prolific milers in the world, the Kenyan Challenge from Chariot, Elliott, Britain, Walker, Mays will be in there as a pacemaker, Spivey of the United States, Chizire, the other Kenyan, and Paul Larkins of Great Britain, who's been asked to take over the pace on the completion of the first 2 laps. Steve Event, terrific anticipation here. Who's your money on?
You always ask me that, and I should ask you, who's your money on before I say it? Go on.
I don't spend money, you should know that by now.
Well, I think that's a fair enough answer. I don't think I'm going to actually say anything either in this race, because to believe me, this is one of the highest quality miles that's ever been assembled. It's going to be a great race. Let's give everybody a fair chance.
The 1988 Dream Mile is underway. James Mays, the American pacemaker, the most experienced at this job in the world, followed immediately by, looks like Larkins, in fact, the other pacemaker, so he's slipped straight into the right place with Elliott in 3rd and Crabb in 4th. So 3 British athletes in that first group of 4, and Steve Cram just running wide in lane 2. Famous figure, of course, in the yellow vest, and some way off the early pace, which suggests that maybe, Steve, he's more intent on keeping an eye on Abdi Bealey than really running a fast time here.
Well, I think at the moment Abdi Bealey seems to be keeping an eye on everybody else. He's right at the back of the field. This is his usual position. I'm not sure whether he can do this with this quality of field at the moment, because they are running very fast at the front, and our 2 boys, that's Steve Crabb and Peter Elliott, have decided that they want to go for the fast time, and they're not going to hang around. They're not going to suddenly start, because these boys are top quality.
55.28 seconds at the completion of the first 440 yards. Mays leads, the pacemaker, remember. Cram is 2nd, Crabb is 3rd, Elliott is 4th. Still, Abdi Bealey, the world champion, some way back from the leaders and keeping a very wary eye on Cram.
Well, as we go to the long shot there, we can see that we've got 3 guys in the first 4, and the first one of those is a pacemaker, who are doing quite well at the moment. But you see here in the middle of the field is Steve Cram, and at the front of it we've got Steve Crabb, Peter Elliott, and Herold there. I don't think we've mentioned him at the moment. Is a very good East German with a very fast finish. He's up there at the moment. He doesn't really show form in big quality meetings, but he's a man to worry about.
Coming up to the first 880 yards then in the 1988 Dream Mile. Mays, the pacemaker, some way out of what had been requested, but perhaps the athletes had their say and asked him to go slower. 1:54 at 880 yards. Larkins takes over.
Actually, that's a bit misleading. I think that's at 800 metres, and I think it's about 1:55.3 at 880. They aren't moving the photo cell back down the track as they need to towards the finish.
They have had some problems with the electronic equipment here tonight on this very wet evening in Oslo. So, Paul Larkins in front, pacing the vital 3rd lap. Crabb is 2nd, Elliott is 3rd, Jasire 4th, Cram 5th. Looks like Spivey behind him, and no sign yet of Abdi Bealey making his move. Cram in what could be the perfect position to win, of course, because that's all that matters now.
It's a difficult position to get out of here at the moment when one of the Kenyans makes a break. But as we see, Steve Crabb covering that break. That's 105 in the light blue there. Oh, and Larkins pulls out there, which is probably correct because he was only going to take it to about 1,000 metres.
Chasire leads them then over the final lap. Steve Crabb is second. Elliott is third. Crabb is fourth, and here comes Feely, making his move now to the shoulder of Steve Crabb. Midway down the back straight for the final time. The Kenyan leads. The watch for the Somalian world champion, number 269. And has he caught Cram by surprise? Cram's had to go a very difficult route on the inside, having to really elbow people out of the way to try and follow that sudden break. Herald, the East German, is in second. Elliott is well placed third. And it's these four now away from the rest. Feely leads. Herald, with a look of great determination, tries to come on the outside, and Cram sees a gap on the inside. Has he got the legs to get there? What a finish! Steve Cram has sneaked through and wins his fourth Dream Mile. And Elliott came from nowhere in the final straight to take second. Well, if you were a poker player, you wouldn't dare try that, because it looked in the home straight as though Steve Cram was trapped on the inside. He couldn't have designed it that way, surely. But it worked, and that's all that matters. Look at Elliott there on the left, incidentally, the fastest finisher of the lot.
And Elliott, for the first time, joins the elite. He's a sub-350 miler, as the winning time there for Crabb, shown unofficially 3:48.89.
The smile of satisfaction from Steve Cram. That's what winning at the Bislett Games does for you. And Steve Cram said later, it's the best little track in the world. What an encouraging effort from John Walker. He ran a 3:52. Although he did finish back in 9th position, it was only his second start in Europe. Now he's getting, or had nowhere near the competition that some of the others have had leading into that event, so he must be very encouraged in this, the important Olympic year. Well, Brendan Telfer, your feelings about it?
But it was a string of very good performances. The interesting thing to come out of it was that a lot of these athletes are holding back for Seoul. A lot of them, and Abdi Bile, the world 1500-metre champion from last year, was a good example of that. A lot of them are holding back for Seoul, promising, but not the best Bislett Games we've ever seen.
And we'll have coverage of the Peugeot Games next week in our programme of Sunday Grandstand. Well, weekend he contested the same event at the Peugeot Games in London. In a lesser light, New Zealand's John Walker was one of those to oppose him. Now the Crystal Palace meet attracted many stars, including Seb Coe in the 800, Steve Cram in the 1000, and his main rival, Abdi Bile of Somalia. But we start our coverage with the men's 400 metres hurdles.
This is the full lineup. On the inside, John Graham, the Commonwealth bronze medalist, Thomas Nyberg of Sweden, Stanislav Novesnak of Czechoslovakia, then Max Robertson, Chris Akabusi and Nat Page, Martin Gillingham of Shaftesbury Barnet in lane 7, and Dale Laverty of the USA on the outside. So Akabusi will be looking for a good time here. He was very impressive in Helsinki 9 days ago when he ran the fastest by British athlete this year, 49.1. And already Nat Page in lane 6 going well. On the inside there's John Graham of Canada. Akabusi holding back just a little bit at the moment. He tends to come through, but now he's getting into his running. Max Robertson, though, pressing him in well. I think Robertson is possibly a shade up as they rise to that hurdle. Nothing much to choose between Robertson in 4, Akabusi in 5, and Nat Page in 6. Akabusi coming up on Robertson though as they come round the turn. Robertson still trying to close on. Nat Page in the black outside him. There's Nat Page looking determined, but Akabusi is almost level with him. Coming into the home straight, Akabusi just behind Nat Page. Now coming through. Oh, he's crashed over and he's fallen at the 9th hurdle. Akabusi out of it, leaving Nat Page to come through from Max Robertson. And that's a great problem for Akabusi. You can only sit and look down the track as Nat Page wins it in 49.32 from Max Robertson and Stanislav Novesnak. Well, Akabusi's all right. He's up on his feet and he's waving. Max Robertson going back down the track to see that he's okay. There he is, Kras Akabusi. But this time, Steve, he really didn't get his hurdling technique right and he crashed into the 9th hurdle.
Yes, I think when we were last speaking to Chris, he was saying that he's changing his stride pattern in virtually in every race he takes part in. And I think he maybe suffered a little bit there because of the pressure that he was having from the outside and Nat Page putting on him. He came into this hurdle and I think he was stuttering a little bit, hits his back leg, I think, or his knee, catches the hurdle, goes down very heavily. Nat Page actually has to move out of his lane to get past him, but as you see, a very, very heavy fall for Chris, but it's good to get it done in a race where it doesn't really matter. If he did that in the heats of the Olympics, I think it would be absolutely disastrous. But now you see, I think knowing that he's got a clear run at the line, Neil really sort of stretches himself in and relaxes with about 20 metres to go. Max Robertson pushing hard there, a good performance as well. It's a shame about that for Chris, but I think it's better done in this sort of event than in the Olympics.
Eakin Billy, David Sharp, both bidding for places in Britain's Olympic team. The 22-year-old Kenyan, Paul Areng, very good athlete, watch out for him. Sammy Kosgei, the veteran Kenyan. Van Elden of Holland, Steve Hurd and Steve Crabb, two more British athletes. Certainly Steve Crabb, a contender for an Olympic place. Belkacem of Algeria, Kemit Bentham, who was in there as a pacemaker, and James Mays of the United States, who will probably fulfill a similar role. Seb Coe runs the 1,500 metres, I believe, on Tuesday night in Dublin. He's just back from the United States, still training very hard.
Stand up, please.
Kemit Bentham, who will wear number 12, who's a 400-metre man, has, I believe, been asked to go through the first lap in around 50 seconds. There he is, the pacemaker. The men's 800 metres then, and chief interest on the man in red, Sebastian Coe. Watch for Bentham as they break from lanes to go out in front, but there's some very useful men over one lap around him as well, and even the pacemaker will have to run to his best to stay in front of this field. Bentham leads then. Paul Areng, the young Kenyan, is in second place. Looks like David Sharp moving through to third. It's unusual to see him so highly placed in the field at this stage. Steve Crabb just behind him. The rest of the field, apart from these two, closely packed, and Coe perfectly placed to cover any move. And Bentham looks as though he's gone through that first 400 exceptionally quickly.
But it is very quick, 50.8, but the main race, Steve Crabb, 52.4 in third place.
I think that's a fairly respectable time, and I think the pacemaker and the other Kenyan have gone off slightly too fast. But as you see, the main opposition to Seb are around him leading the chasing pack at the moment, and I think that's where the main race is going to take place.
Areng leads then, a useful performer, which Seb Coe will know. And number 6 there in the middle, the veteran Kenyan Sammy Kosgei, well placed. Crabb is in third. Coe goes now. Less than 200 metres to go. Coe leads. Areng struggling for second. Crabb running well in third place. Coe looks over his shoulder. That look of determination and smooth acceleration of old. Sharp finishing very quickly, number 9 nearest to the camera. But Seb Coe has told the selectors with this race that he's in great shape. Steve Hurd finishing remarkably quickly there on the outside with Steve Crabb. But look at that. Look at that expression of effortless ease from the winner, Seb Coe.
And a 26.7 last 200 metres, which he'll be looking for.
The winning time, 1 minute 46.14. And I think Seb Coe will have answered a few doubters with that performance, Steve Yvette.
Yes, it was a great run, wasn't it, from Seb? And I think you saw there that how experience can be all important in these races. He was on the pole position all the way, and when he realised that they were actually, you know, sort of bunching, as it were, to come off that top bend, and I think he thought, well, I'll go at 200 metres, gain as much as I can. He looks back, knows, I think, that he's clear there, and that's a great relief for someone like Seb, knowing that you've got 10 yards on the rest of the pack. And as you can see, the melee behind him is all over the place. I mean, they're changing lanes, and they're actually sort of desperately trying to get into a position to chase, but they haven't got the strength to catch Seb once he's moved like that. But Steve Hurd there, I think, just gets second, and I'm sure that Crabb is, well, easily in third place there.
Steve Crabb then, following that 4th successive victory in the Dream Mile, going on to face the distance at which he has the 2nd fastest time in history. And this, the lineup. Peter Elliott, really unlucky, I think, that he didn't get more credit for that performance in Oslo. Inevitably, the major headlines went to Cram and Martin and McColgan, but Peter Elliott, a terrific run by him as well. Abdi Bile, the world champion, the man who took Cram's crown in Rome, is in there again. Tony Morell in very good form at the moment as well. There's Abdi Bile, the world champion, who covered his last 1,000 metres in winning that title in Rome in 2 minutes 16, which, as you'll see from the world all-time list is a pretty respectable time in itself, and that was at the end of a 1,500 metres race. Seb Coe's virtually untouchable world record still standing, or world best. And Cram second on the all-time list. Bislett not behind the correct line. 2.5 laps of the track, the men's 1,000 metres. And the great fascination, of course, Steve Ovett, is in this second clash of Cram, Elliott and Bislett.
Yes, but I think the rest of the field, let's not take the rest of the field away. They are class athletes, every single one of these boys, and as we saw, a fairly casual start from Bislett. He always does this, rushes to the back of the field and then decides to charge through on the last lap. But we're seeing there that there's some top boys even at the back of the field, as we say this, Alan.
Bislett, I'm sure, as he did in Oslo, will keep an eye on Cram above all else. Gary Marlowe is in there as pacemaker. He's leading at the moment. Ibrahim Okash, the Somalian athlete, naturally a great pal and training partner of Abdi Bislett, is in second place, all in white. Then Cram is third, Elliott fourth.
Well, it seems to be symptomatic that the pacemaker in all these races tonight goes off quite mad and the rest of the fields don't really chase him, so we have got a fairly competitive race here without the need of a pacemaker, I think, Alan.
53 at 400 metres, so well outside the world best times, but once again, this is a race, not a race against the clock. Elliott is sticking to the shoulder of Steve Cram, and Joseph Chizire, the Kenyan, suddenly decides that's his moment, with the bell approaching, to go into the lead, and Cram has followed him, and Elliott has followed him.
Well, at that stage, I think you saw that Cram was the man to make the right move, and he really did. He poised, pushed himself forward, and I think he looks in control of this race at the moment, Alan.
Chizire leads, Cram second, Elliott third. Ari Suhonen, a very good Finnish athlete, has moved through to fourth, number 7 there. And Abdi Bislett now begins to make his move. A little late, perhaps. Marlowe, the pacemaker, is overtaken. And Chizire stretches away and has got an important bit of daylight. Elliott is closing on him, and then the big two behind him, Cram and Bislett, all together. It's a repeat of Oslo almost. Bislett comes hard on the outside, and again the inside opens up for Cram. It's amazing. Elliott's trapped between the two of them again. Terrific finish. Bislett looks strong, and Bislett makes it. Cram second, Elliott third, Chizire fourth. One each in the great confrontation, you could call it, I suppose. Cram won a week ago. Bislett gets it this time, and to rub a little salt into the wounds, he's beaten Cram on his home patch, although of course he'd regard Gateshead as his real home, but Crystal Palace certainly a second home, and he doesn't look too pleased, and why should he? Well, the astonishing thing there, Steve Ovett, as we pick up the race 200 metres from home, was that it looked as though it was going to be an action replay of Oslo, with a gap opening again on the inside, but this time Bislett was strong.
Yes, it was a good race, though. Steve did a great job, actually. He's got the door open there again. He's so lucky in this home straight at the moment. But Pete, as you see, comes wide and takes the lead, but he doesn't realise that on both sides he's got challenges from Bislett and Cram. But Bislett, again, I think shows that he is coming strong at the right time. At each race that goes by, he's getting stronger and stronger. But look at R2 pushing hard all the way to the line here. This is a great race, and you don't see races like this every day, and a great performance from all three of those there.
There's the full lineup. Another Englishman, Barrington Williams in 1, the Scot Elliott Bunny in 2, Kovacs of Hungary in 3, Imo Nigeria in 4, Christie of Great Britain in 5, Andrew Smith from Jamaica, a winner in Oslo a week ago, in lane 6, Mel Latany, the experienced American, in lane 7, and England's Mike McFarlane in lane 8.
Set.
This time they are away. Imo made a terrific start, but so did Linford Christie. Imo leading, Christie coming back at him. Imo still in front. It's going to be so close on the line, and Christie gets there. Imo second. Andrew Smith of Jamaica took third, and Linford Christie has finally beaten his old adversary. And that was really close. Well, Linford Christie's confidence will soar again here. He is unbeaten now in 1988. He looks in the form of his life. And here we are looking at a man who is going to be a contender for the Olympic Games.
And there's the lineup. And in lane 3, Jordanka Donkova of Bulgaria, who set 4 world records a couple of years ago and is back into her best form. And Sally Gunnell runs in lane 6, the leading British competitor. Lynn Green, Leslie Ann Skeet, Jordanka Donkova, Eva Sokolova, Anne Picaro, Sally Gunnell, Kim Mackenzie, and Nancy Vallicella of Ecuador. This, no, they don't seem to get them away at all, and a great deal of tension here. Steve?
Yes, I think sometimes, though, I mean, to be fair to the athletes, I think sometimes the starter can be a little bit hard to deal with, because on certain occasions he will dictate what he feels is the right time span between set and off, and he can actually have the athletes in the set position for quite a lot longer than most of them would like. And when you get to that position, obviously it's very hard on the arms and the fingers to keep you in the set position, and you start wobbling a little bit. And I think he's just saying that's what he wants, and the athletes are going to have to do it.
Yes, and it looked like Nancy Vallicella of Ecuador was warned there. So we're having quite a delay before we get the chance to see Jordanka Donkova. And in fact, yes, Vallicella has been withdrawn for 2 false starts. Once again, Green, Skeet, Donkova, Sokolova, Picaro, Gunnell and Mackenzie. This time they are away at last. And Donkova very quickly into her running. Skeet's going well, trying to hold on to her. Donkova, it is all away, and this is the best run we've seen this year from Skeet. But now, Sally Gunnell comes through into second place. Donkova takes it. Sally Gunnell second. Leslie Ann Skeet in third place. 12.89 for Donkova, despite all those delays. But it was good to see Sally Gunnell, who got a bad start, coming up at the end there, and Leslie Ann Skeet in third. But the class of the field, undoubtedly, was this lady from Bulgaria, Jordanka Donkova.
Greatest all-round runner in history. The man from Morocco holds world records and world bests for 1,500 metres, 2,000 metres, 2 miles and 5,000 metres. The second fastest man ever over a mile and 3,000 metres. The Olympic and world champion at 5,000 metres. Predictably, look down the right-hand side, all first places, unbeaten so far this season. Indeed, he's only lost once in 49 races over 3 years, and that was in a steeplechase, the first time he'd attempted that event for 8 years. He finished second. Disgraceful performance. Said Ewita won, of course, in Stockholm earlier in the week, and now faces this high-quality field here over 1,500 metres. 3 3/4 laps of the track, and this the distance that Said Ewita has told us, assured us, he will be running in the Olympics, though not everyone believes that. Ewita has been known to reverse his public statements more than once before now. So the world will wait and watch and see what the great little man from Morocco is finally going to do. And also, I'm sure the likes of Seb Coe and Steve Cram will be particularly interested in what event he finally picks. The early leader here, Michael Hindmarsh, the New Zealander. Sydney Marie's also in the field. There's 1 or 2 that we haven't mentioned. Great names, really, of middle distance running over the years. The marvellous John Walker, now 36, Olympic champion 12 years ago, is also in there. Look out for him, wearing number 14. Sydney Marie, now 5,000 metres man, but still with some of the best 1,500 metres times in history. He's also in there, wearing number 17. Steve O'Donnell.
Yes, I watched Said quite closely when he ran his last race in Stockholm. I thought he looked very good, but I thought he struggled more than he should have done really against that sort of field. And there's a lot of people, I think, who will go along with me saying that he's probably not in his best shape at the moment. But as Seb quite rightly pointed out, it's early days at the moment. But I think Said's a sort of character that would like to dominate everything all the time, and like to dominate it so emphatically that he puts all other athletes off, as it were. But as I say, there are rumours that he's been injured, there are rumours that he's not training as well as he should be, but we'll have to wait and see in this race whether any of these athletes can actually sort of maybe capitalise on that loss of form, or slight loss of form, and give him a good race.
Hindmarsh still leads then. Marie in second place. Pat Scammell, the Australian, in the yellow vest and green shorts, is third. Moving up is number 7, the Kenyan Sisa Kirati. And also moving up now is Cheriot, the other Kenyan, who was second to Ewita in Stockholm, and indeed was also second to him in an earlier race on the circuit in Lille, and has pushed him very close on both occasions. Ewita, who gets dwarfed often by athletes, of course, he's only 5'6", 5'7". There's the 800-metre time, 1:57. So it's not particularly quick, Steve.
No, it's not quick, but as you look, there's a lot of guys there pushing, shoving, milling around, not really sort of making a decision whether to go now or not. But I think on the last sort of 500 or even on the last 400, we'll see someone take off and really challenge Awita, because I think that's where he's susceptible, to go at 400 and stretch him out around the last lap.
We haven't mentioned Paul Larkins, who was a winner in a meeting in Helsinki. There he is wearing number 8, now coached by Martinen, the great Finn, and a man who has dramatically come through into the picture for Olympic Games places. Moving up again is that wearing number 7, Kirati of Kenya. And at the bell, it's really anybody's race. Steve Scott, the experienced American, also moving through to second place. Scammell is still there. Awita a little bit trapped on the outside and has got a long way to go to get back in touch with Chariot. He's a long way off him, Steve.
He is a long way off him. It's slightly worrying, I think, from his point of view, that he's had to find sort of ground even to catch the lead up. But he has got that change of pace, which we all saw. But there's a couple of good guys up front there. They should test him over the last 150.
Chariot leads then. Scott is in second. Scammell is third. Watch out too for Paul Larkins moving through, and here comes Awita into his top gear on the outside. Adrian Passy of Great Britain wearing number 9 is also in this leading group as Awita challenges Steve Scott. Walker's still there, Passy's in there too. A better run by him. He's had a couple of disappointments of late, but Awita it is who hits the front, and he has fooled us again. Another victory. Scott second. Passy was third. 3:36 for Awita. Chariot got through for 4th. Well, it may not be the side Awita that we have come to expect over the years, but I must say, watching him in Stockholm, he was totally in control for me in that race. It may not be a vintage performance, and neither was that, but you have to say he had the finishing speed again. And Steve, you know, Steve Scott and John Walker and the likes here, no slouches, obviously, and Awita, although below par, still beats them.
Yes, he does, but I don't know, there's not that sort of sparkle. It's very easy to say, yes, he's all right, he's looking good. But I've seen Awita when he's looking devastating, and you don't think, well, there's no way anybody can get close to him. And if you look here, Steve's only 2 yards behind him, and I mean, it's only sort of over the last 100 metres that he actually took the race and controlled it. But a good race. I'm not taking it away from him, Alan, but you're asking my opinion of the guy, and my opinion is that he's not at his best at the moment.
Very gallant effort indeed by Steve Scott, running into second behind the remarkable Moroccan, and John Walker pulling out of the race. He was spiked during the running of the race, so that was a disappointment for John Walker, who says he's in great form. It feels good for Seoul coming up later in the year. Well, still to come in our...
Carl Lewis is the Olympic champion, but breathing down his neck is the world champion, Canada's Ben Johnson. The two runners have avoided each other since the World Championships in Rome last year. But in Zurich today, lured by a huge payout, they lined up for their long-awaited needle match.
It was the richest race in the history of athletics. Ben Johnson, the world champion and world record holder, against Carl Lewis, the Olympic champion and the fastest man in the world this year. Each was to receive a reported $250,000. That's over £14,000 a second. Britain's Linford Christie, the fastest man in Europe, was a bit-part player in a race which started in controversy. A false start, with Lewis pulling up first and Johnson, who relies on his speed from the blocks, annoyed at being adjudged the guilty party. When they did get away, Johnson looked set for his 6th successive win over Lewis.
And it's Johnson and Carl Lewis coming through. Carl Lewis wins! Carl Lewis wins!
Beforehand, Lewis had described it as just another race. His reaction afterwards suggested otherwise. Johnson, meanwhile, disappeared from view, knowing that he'd lost a vital psychological advantage to his rival just 5 weeks before the Olympics. The score now is Lewis 9 wins, Johnson 6. Both, though, are richer by about £150,000.
Lewis may now have the psychological advantage over his old rival, but his performance was eclipsed by the brilliance of his compatriot Butch Reynolds. Reynolds turned on the power in the 400 metres to shatter by more than half a second the world record set 20 years ago at the Olympic Games in Mexico. The Nigerian Egbeneke set a blistering pace, startling everyone with his speed over the first 200 metres.
Reynolds comes back at him though. Egbeneke had to suffer, and he is. Into the home straight. Steve Lewis also challenging, second from the right.
but Harry Bush-Reynolds is in front and showing his enormous strength and talent, and now all eyes on the clock. 43.30, the fastest 400 metres in history.
And that race and the 100 metres.
To lower one of the longest standing world records in track history. He runs now in this men's 400 metres in a stunningly highly talented field. Hernandez, the 21-year-old Cuban, goes in lane 2. Steve Lewis, only 19, set 5 World Junior records already this year, is in 3. Reynolds goes in 4. The man who ran 43.93 in the American Olympic trials. Egbenike, the World Championship silver medalist, in 5. Then Everett of the United States, Valman and McKay. Tremendous anticipation here. Harry Reynolds has said he's going to have a genuine attempt at Lee Evans' 1968 world record. And there's no question he is in the form to beat it. One day, perhaps this will be the day. Egbenike, all in blue, has got off at a stunning pace and really thrown the gauntlet down to Reynolds. Hernandez, the Cuban, in the white and red. Extreme right also off quickly, but Egbenike has really shocked the crowd here with his first 200 metres and shocked Reynolds. Reynolds comes back at him though. Egbenike had to suffer, and he is. Into the home straight. Steve Lewis also challenging, second from the right, but Harry Bush-Reynolds is in front and showing his enormous strength and talent, and now all eyes on the clock. 43.30, the fastest 400 metres in history, and he's shattered the world record that has stood for 20 years. Unbelievable.
Not just broken it, take half a second, over half a second off it. That has to be one of the greatest breakthroughs in athletic history. Absolutely fantastic, on a par with Ben Johnson or Bob Beeman's world record, to smash a world record set at altitude by such a margin. Absolutely fantastic.
We have just witnessed one of the most historic races in the history of the sport. Remember, when Lee Evans set that world record in Mexico City, he had the benefit of altitude. They said it was a world record that would last a long, long time, and it has, 2 decades. But the 24-year-old has shattered it by half a second. What a performance. And are they all chasing silver in Seoul? Because this man is going to be one of the hottest gold medal favourites of all time. The man who used to walk past Jesse Owens' statue in his college every day and gain inspiration has done something his mentor would have been proud of. What a battle for second and third as well between Everett and Lewis. Everett second, Lewis third. But the whole stadium is on its feet here, and we're privileged to have seen a run of that enormous magnitude.
It was a very fast first 200 metres by Egbenike. That helped Reynolds, because he had him in his sights all the way. But it was a beautifully controlled race by Reynolds. Very even pace, just outside 21 seconds, the first 200. But look at the strength, the anguish, and it was a terrific finish. Very fast indeed. He absolutely ran away, and the official time has been given even quicker, 43.29 for Butch Reynolds.
And there it is in lights. And it's a headline that will go around the world of sport.
Confirmation of that epic world record by Butch Reynolds, 43.29, a whole second ahead of his US teammates Danny Everett and Steve Lewis.
Butch 43.29. We tend to overuse superlatives, but that's a fantastic achievement.
Thank you. I got to give it to the whole heat. I mean, it was a fast heat. I mean, me promoter here in Zurich, he brought in the best in the world besides Sean Labor, but in order to win this, I knew a world record was going to come. I wish it didn't come now, but if it came, I take it. Egbenike got off fast. I was able to stay in touch. And when I passed him coming on the home stretch, that's when Lewis came up and challenged me. That enabled me to make another gear, another change, and go for it.
You were so strong at the end of the race. Was there a little second in there when you knew you were going to beat Lee Evans' world best?
when I got about 10 minutes from the tape, I was trying to give it all I had because I knew I was close to it. And I didn't want to get caught by 0.07 seconds again like I did in the Olympic trials. I wanted it. Now I got one goal out the way. I need another goal. Thank you.
Can you go even quicker in Seoul?
That's yet to be seen. I'm not going to say that. That's yet to be seen how fast I can go, because I don't know yet. It surprised me, so I don't have no idea.
People who've been close to athletics for many, many years are shaking their heads and they can't believe what you've done here in Zurich. Can you believe it yourself, or are you a bit surprised?
I'm a bit surprised, but what can I say? I'm happy. I'm so happy. I'm just thrilled to death, seriously. It's a fantastic feeling. It's what victory is all about right here. The hard work, the dedication, the 4 years of training, it's finally paying off. And I got to thank my brother, too, because he came in and helped me train. Yes, he helped me train, and he was able to push me through practice, and he knew I was ready from practice. He had no doubt that I could do it. I had the doubt.
It's a family affair. Well done to you both.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Ben Johnson, the man who set that fantastic world record of 9.83 seconds in the Olympic Stadium in Rome, beating Carl Lewis in the World Championship final. But here is the lineup, and it's a lineup that would do justice to the Olympic Games final itself. Dennis Mitchell, the 22-year-old American, second to Carl Lewis in the American Olympic trials. Our own Linford Christie, the biggest race of his life outside of any major championship. Chidi Imo, the Nigerian, who has been beaten by Linford Christie twice in the last month. Ben Johnson, the world champion. Carl Lewis, the Olympic champion, one of the greatest athletes in the history of the sport. Ray Stewart of Jamaica, the world bronze medalist. Desai Williams of Canada, Olympic silver medalist in the relay, and Calvin Smith of America, the former world record holder. You can hardly hear a sound in this stadium now, and the tension clear on the face of the two men about whom this race is all about. Or is it? A clean start this time. Johnson just ahead. Johnson, it is in front. Lewis is chasing him hard though, and here comes Lewis, and Lewis is won. 9.94, but the time to Carl Lewis will be immaterial. He will milk this moment for everything it's worth. He's beaten Ben Johnson, and he wanted that so badly. Carl Lewis is on a high, and he will make sure that every person in this crowd knows about it. Ben Johnson and our own Linford Christie there will be low, Johnson in particular. And now perhaps the post-mortems will begin already. And has Carl Lewis scored a vital victory on the road to Olympic gold?
Linford Christie rocking a little bit there. Johnson's off like a train. Lewis, though, also gets a good start. He's not far behind Johnson, but this bit of the race, Johnson managed even to move away from him a bit. But look at that, Johnson opening up a gap in the midpoint of the race. Maybe it couldn't be done for Lewis, but look now, he gets into his long strides. He comes through and he finishes absolutely like a train. Also finishing very fast on this side is Calvin Smith too, and he may have pipped Johnson for second, but Lewis in his win. Looks like Calvin Smith in second, Johnson then third, and Linford Christie, well, yes, fifth, I think.
Well, that race will be shown the world over time and time again in the build-up to the Olympic Games. It goes without saying that in such an important race, in such a great field, neither of these two magnificent sprinters could afford to lose. The time has been dismissed as almost routine, but of course, it's a sensational time as well.
And also I found very interesting the fact that these 8 men, possibly the best 800-metre runners in the world, were actually so close together. It wasn't as we might have expected, Johnson and Lewis some way clear of the rest. The rest were really close. Look how fast Calvin Smith finishes too, in the black in lane 8. Johnson here has got a clear lead, but only perhaps by about half a metre, maintaining that from Lewis at this stage in the race. Wonderful run by Johnson, but look at Lewis finish. And the winning time, 9.93 for Carl Lewis, 9.97 for Calvin Smith, 10 seconds Ben Johnson, Chidi Imo 10.04 and Christie 10.07. An American record equaling for Carl Lewis.
Do you think this is a foretaste of things to come in the Olympic Games?
Well, I don't know if it means that much. One thing I do know, it means that I'm running well and I'm pleased.
What about that false start to kick off with? That confused one or two of us. What happened there?
Well, it was kind of crazy, but we know that Ben's been very close quite a few times. So, you know, I don't know how much that means, but the one thing is that I've worked on my entire race, and I was able to stay close enough to stay relaxed and come back and get him today.
And you came through tremendously strongly at the end there. That must give you great personal pleasure.
Well, it gives me a lot of pleasure because I stayed confident in my race. Everyone wanted me to change to become a start sprinter, and I felt I just do my own race, and that's what I did today.
Ben Johnson will say he's had a ruined season. He's going to get even quicker in Seoul. What would you say to that?
We'll see then, but right now I'm riding high.
And that Olympic title, you're desperate to hang on to it, aren't you?
Well, I'd like to, yes. If I can run like I did today, then I think I have the opportunity.
Thanks for running to us on ITV. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Brent.
Steve Cram prepares himself for the 800 metres, and being the great competitor he is, Steve Cram will relish this atmosphere. Unfortunately, Steve Cram, who is Commonwealth champion from 1986 over this 800 metres distance and has a best ever time of 1:42.88, one of the best in all time, doesn't come to this race perfectly prepared. He's had a stomach upset, and it was touch and go whether he ran or not up to within an hour of the start of the race. There's the full lineup. Barbosa of Brazil, the world bronze medalist. Johnny Gray of the United States, unbeaten in 1988. And there is Johnny Gray with the world's fastest time this year, the United States record holder. Also in this field, of course, is Peter Elliott of Great Britain with a point to prove. Elliott, in the white vest and red shorts there, extreme right, said that he has had a very unhappy week. He's been so displeased at the clamour for Seb Coe and the way that people have apparently ignored him that it has spoilt the joy of being picked for 2 events in the Olympic Games. So he has something to prove. The pacemaker here, who's gone out very fast indeed, is the American number 178, Walter McCoy. They've set a ludicrously optimistic time for him at the bell of around 48.5 seconds. Johnny Gray is in second place, and Barbosa of Brazil is third. Elliott moving up to fourth, and 49.48 at the bell.
And almost exactly 50 seconds for the man in second place. It's going to be very quick.
McCoy takes them into the back straight then. Johnny Gray is second. Barbosa is third. Elliott is fourth. Musa Fowle fifth. Then in the yellow vest, Steve Cram in sixth place, but not looking strong. Perhaps that stomach upset has taken its toll. 200 metres to go. And the pacemaker drops out, leaving Johnny Gray and Jose Luis Barbosa in front. And here comes Cram now, moving into third, ahead of Elliott. So it's Gray, Barbosa, Cram and Elliott. Johnny Gray, the American, looking to extend his unbeaten record as Cram steals up on the inside, but this time, unlike Oslo, too late. Gray wins, Barbosa second, Cram third, Fowle fourth, Elliott was fifth or sixth.
And very fast, 1:42.66, the fastest time for 3 years. And Steve Cram, 1:43.5, nothing to be ashamed about for him in third place. Magnificent run. Conditions absolutely ideal for fast sprinting here. The women's 100 metres. Diane Williams of USA in lane 1. The former Commonwealth champion, Angela Isayenko in 2. Evelyn Ashford, who set a world record here 4 years ago, in lane 3. Sheila Etchells, 4th in the US trials in lane 4. The Jamaican, Grace Jackson in lane 5. The 4 times European indoor gold medalist at 60 metres, Nellie Kuhlman in 6th. Another American, the Olympic silver medalist from 1984, Alice Brown in 7, and Angela Bailey of Canada on the outside. So careful preparations here then for the women's 100 metres with Evelyn Ashford, now 31 years of age, ran in the Olympics back in 1976, in the blue, in lane 3. Inside her in black, Isayenko of Canada. Away very evenly in the pink, Alice Brown of the USA in lane 7 got away quickly. Ashford's being headed though at the moment by Sheila Etchells, but Ashford now coming through. And it's Ashford who comes through to win. A tremendous performance by Ashford, 11.03, and Grace Jackson of Jamaica in second place. But Evelyn Ashford, very fast time indeed. And the wind, 0.6, less than it was in the B string. Jackson, much taller there than the diminutive figure of Ashford. But Evelyn Ashford shows that once again, she will be a force in the Olympic Games this year. Let's look again. Ashford was relatively slowly off in the pink in lane 7, Alice Brown. Angela Bailey of Canada also going well. The long-striding Grace Jackson in lane 5 took a long time to get into her running. And at this point, it's probably Sheila Etchells in the white in lane 4. But now just look at Ashford come through. And certainly her finish was absolutely tremendous. But Grace Jackson's fully into her running. Alice Brown on this side, though, also in contention for that second spot. Ashford clearly by a metre, and then close between Jackson. Just gets it, I think, Alice Brown in third.
Linford Christie pushed back into 5th place over 100 metres and will be running with great determination to do a lot better in this race. John Regis, the world bronze medalist over this distance, and the 2 British athletes getting the poor draw in lanes 1 and 2, particularly, of course, Christie. The double world champion, Calvin Smith of the United States, just caught sight of there in lane 3. And completing the lineup, Albert Robinson of the United States, Robson da Silva of Brazil, Joe DeLoach from America, Henry Thomas of the United States, and the Commonwealth champion, Atlee Mahorn of Canada. Another star-studded lineup. Robson da Silva, the Brazilian there, just missed out on a medal in the World Championships in Rome. Joe DeLoach, the man who beat the great Carl Lewis in the American trials. His training partner, Henry Thomas, like DeLoach, just 21, from the same UCLA and Santa Monica track clubs that breed so many great sprinters out there in California. Atlee Mahorn of Canada. Good start there by Linford Christie. He's already pulling up to John Regis on his outside. Calvin Smith, the former 100-metre world record holder, also made a very good start. Nearest to the camera, Joe DeLoach. Calvin Smith, third from the right. DeLoach nearest to the camera, just ahead of Smith. And DeLoach holds on to win it. Calvin Smith second, and then a very close call for third. Behind the pack of athletes who crossed the line, hoping to get the nod in third place, we made John Regis 5th and Linford Christie 6th.
Yes, they weren't helped, I think, by having the inside lanes, which neither of them liked particularly. There's no question, though, in Joe DeLoach. He's a major new talent, the 21-year-old. We saw that he beat Carl Lewis in the US trials, and he's going to be a man to contend with Lewis. But how well Calvin Smith is going. He thrives on lots of races. He's already ran with great distinction to get second in the 100 metres, and it's these two very, very talented Americans, Joe DeLoach and Calvin Smith, quite clearly first and second, and the 2 British athletes you can see there coming in 5th and 6th places. So close. John Regis just shading Linford Christie, I think, for 5th place.
But now we concentrate on this mile and some of the big names. Saida Wheater, of course, the biggest of all. Joe Falcon from the United States, their great hope for the middle distances in the future. He's just 22. And the 31-year-old Sydney Marie, former world record holder. And Britain represented here by Adrian Passy. And there he is, number 187, the 23-year-old from Bromsgrove Harriers, and also Chris McGeorge. Four laps of the track then. And the perennial pacemaker James Mays, all in white with the white sweatbands, is the man who's been asked to lead them through the first 800 metres in around 1:51. Ray Brown, the other American, who is also in there to help side Awita towards a fast time, in second place, and then Awita moves through to third. Awita has won all his races so far this year. It numbers 11, and is still threatening to go for the 800, 1500 double in the Seoul Olympics. And one man, of course, who will be doing his level best to ensure that he doesn't get either of those gold medals is Steve Cram, and we'll be hearing from him in a moment. Mays leads Brown second, Awita third, and Adrian Passy moves through into 5th place, running well. Swiss cameraman obviously concentrating on one of their local athletes there. But Steve, I think the whole world will be waiting and watching and wondering what Awita can perform here.
Well, I've actually been with him all week in Davos, up in the hills, and he's had quite a relaxing time up there. I think he intends running fast tonight, but he thinks he's going to run faster on Sunday. He says he likes to run in blocks of 3 races. This is the first of 3, Zurich, then Brussels, then Cologne. And I think he's aiming for a fast time tonight, but he's not sure quite how well he will run. And as I said, I think he's looking more towards Sunday for a really fast time.
And already this has developed into 2 races. The 2 pacemakers, Mays, who'll drop out now, then Ray Brown and Said Awita. And then we've got a gap of some 25 metres to the next race, Marie and Passy. And it's fast at 880 yards, 151.53.
And once again, James Mays does a fantastic job. Spot on what he was asked to go through at 800 metres. Now it's up to Ray Brown.
Well, this is always a difficult part in these races. It's finding somebody who can push on the 3rd lap. And I think you can see that Ray Brown is already struggling. And Said really doesn't want to take it on this early. And I know that the organisers were really wondering who they could get to take this 3rd lap. Awita had asked to go through 1200 in 2:47, which is an incredible pace. And while they were on target for that at 800, it looks as though Brown is struggling a little bit here. And Awita might wait until he takes it up. And now he has to take it up.
Awita is on his own. And a long way back, Marcus O'Sullivan, the Irishman, in 2nd. Sydney Marie of America in 3rd. The world record held, of course, by Steve Cram, 3:46.32.
And the pace is still on for a possible record, 2:51.11. Adrian Passy of Britain's just about dropped off, tailed off at the back now.
The crowd as one want to see another world record, and the Moroccan supporters will go absolutely crazy if they get it. But it's a long, hard run from here, and the rest of the pack, indeed, Steve, closing on Awita.
Well, he's been out there quite a while already in the front, and he's going to be tired. There was a very fast first 800 and a slow 3rd lap, and it's always difficult to pick up the pace again after such a 3rd lap. And the field, of course, have the incentive of chasing Awita, and they're catching him now, but I really don't think that they're going to catch him. He's so strong in the home straight. He's going to grit his teeth. We'll see that familiar head rolling. He may not break the world record. There's 3:35 for 1500. And in fact, the field are still chasing very, very hard, but I think he's going to hang on for a good win.
Awita will win it, and the new American hope, Joe Falcon, comes through to take 2nd place. O'Sullivan 3rd, and Sydney Marie in a photo for 4th place. The time, 3:50.84, and Awita looks almost disappointed.
Indeed, look for Said Awita, who will be performing again at Seoul. I always have trouble with his name, but right here to tell me how to pronounce it is Brendan Telfer. Brendan, before we go into that, first of all, the reaction to Butch Reynolds. I mean, for a start, who is Butch Reynolds?
Well, he has actually been around for about 4 or 5 years, despite the fact that he's only 24 years of age. He, in fact, ran at the US Olympic trials in 1984. But he really came into prominence 12 months ago, and the fact that he's broken this world record hasn't surprised a lot of people in American track and field, because he ran the 3 fastest 400 metres ever at low altitude last year. He went off to the World Championships in Rome last year as the hottest of hot favourites in the 400 metres, but had the misfortune to pick up a bout of diarrhea. But believe it or not, he still ran at Rome, and despite the fact that he was nowhere near in his peak condition, he still took home a bronze medal. So the fact that he's come through this year in good form, without any problems, and broken the world record hasn't surprised a lot of people, but nonetheless it was an extraordinary performance.
And not peaking too early for Seoul.
Oh, there's no chance of that, no. It's only 3 or 4 weeks away, and he needed that and wanted that really tough race, and I'm sure, in fact, he will have a few more races before Seoul. In fact, as we're going to see shortly, he was performing 2 days later in Brussels over a slightly shorter distance.
Around about $800,000 at stake for the Lewis-Johnson clash. What was your appraisal of that? Was it money well spent?
Well, I didn't own the television network that put the money up, so only those executives could answer that, I suppose. But it's an indication of the enormous popularity that track and field has in North America and in Europe. The demand is there for this sort of money, and sponsors and the TV networks are willing to pay for it.
Is that a bad omen, however, for Ben Johnson?
I don't think so. I mean, there will be endless post-mortems about the significance of this race in terms of what it means for Seoul. Personally, I don't think Ben Johnson will be upset by it at all. He had a hamstring injury early in the year. He missed 3 or 4 weeks of training, and he isn't as advanced in his preparation as Carl Lewis. And he is running in Cologne tonight, where he hopes to go under 9.93, the time that Carl Lewis ran there in Zurich. So I think psychologically the odds are still pretty even. I don't think Carl Lewis can take too much out of that performance, knowing the condition that Ben Johnson was in. He was there for the money, and he earned plenty of it.
Indeed he did, Brendan Telfer, with his comments on the Zurich meet. And so the travelling road show moved to the Heysel Stadium in Brussels, where the commentators there were Alan Parry and Peter Matthews.
Carl Lewis, fresh from his marvellous victory over Ben Johnson in Zurich on Wednesday, heads the lineup in this men's 100 metres. The Olympic champion is in lane 4. Teruel of Belgium is a former European indoor champion. Voronin of Poland in lane 6 is the European record holder. And then, of course, the other Americans there of the highest international calibre. Mitchell in lane 3 was second to Carl Lewis in the United States Olympic trials. He is running in lane 3 next to Lewis. Carl Lewis deep in concentration as ever. Not the best start by Lewis. Mitchell in lane 3 ahead of him here, but watch for Lewis coming on here. Cooper on his outside, also well placed, but Lewis leaves them all standing. Mitchell in second place and Cooper probably third. 10.05 for a sprinter of Lewis's calibre. Of course, it's a routine time, that, but obviously he's still on a high and probably feeling psychologically still the benefits of that marvellous victory over Ben Johnson. But third from the right there, Frank, Dennis Mitchell gave him just the impetus he needed at the start.
Certainly did. Not the best of starts for Carlos, but he's a great stylist. Watch his high, springy knee action, full drive with the leg, full arm action. Beautiful example for all young sprinters, this guy.
And Carl Lewis once again supreme at 100 metres. His time 10.04, nearly 2 metres clear of Dennis Mitchell, with Brian Cooper in third place. So the pacemaker, Essie Washington, has done a terrific job. She now steps off the track just to one side of Paula Ivan, takes over. Doina Melinti in second place in a very fast pace, 2:8.5. There were 21 runners in this 1500 metre field, and they're really strung out. Once again, Paula Ivan, who set the world's fastest time in Zurich, takes the lead. This time she's tracked quite closely by Doina Melinti. Christina Cahill running very well up there also. Kirsty Wade in 5th place. And another British runner, Bev Nicholson, back in the pack in about 10th. And the little figure of Lynn Williams now in 4th place, trying to hold on as Paula Ivan, Doina Melinti and Chris Cahill, running so much better here at the moment than she did in Zurich, is in 3rd place. Kirsty Wade up on Lynn Williams' shoulder in 5th. Then the tall figure of Ellie Van Hulst, but really strung out now as they come up to the bell. Once again it's Ivan, but this time Melinti is close behind her. It looks well set to be under 4 minutes again. 2:57 at the bell. Ivan looking so strong. She's run all her 1500 metre races this year, all the big races. She leads the Grand Prix standings, of course, at this event. But Melinti, who has raced sparingly this year, won a medal in all the major championships in recent years. She's tucking in there in 2nd place. Chris Cahill struggling now and moving backwards a little bit in the field in 3rd place, being passed by Lynn Williams. As up front, it's Paula Ivan, so strong. Melinti trying to stay with her. There's Lynn Williams, who just passed Chris Cahill. Kirsty Wade, though, still 8 metres back on Cahill. But up front, Ivan stretching out her lead more and more over Doina Melinti. Tatiana Samolenko, the Soviet runner we haven't seen recently on the Grand Prix circuit, she'll be one of the main contenders, surely, in Seoul. But on form we've seen this year, Ivan, running hard, running often, is once again storming away down the straight. Doina Melinti, some 12 metres behind her in 2nd place. Then there's a big gap of some 30 metres to Lynn Williams. Chris Cahill running, though, very well, battling on strong. Kirsty Wade coming in 5th place. And Wade and Cahill have just passed the line now. Ellie Van Hulst then behind them. So good performance there for Chris Cahill to come back after a little disappointment in Zurich. And she's run about 4:05 yet again. As up front, the winning time, 3:59.19 for Paula Ivan. The women's 400 metres, Terry Dendy of USA on the inside, then Kathy Williams of Jamaica, Diane Dixon of the USA, the US trials winner, Anna Kiro of Cuba in lane 4, Highland talented at both 400 and 800. Gillian Richardson, the Commonwealth silver medalist from Canada. Lily Leatherwood of USA, a gold medalist in Los Angeles in the relay. Deneen Howard of USA, second in their trials. And Gail Kellen, the 5th US athlete in this race. The US Challenge headed by Diane Dixon, the 23-year-old. Brilliant indoor performer, now translating that into the track performances on the outdoor circuit as well. But outside her, probably Ana Quiro of Cuba must be the favorite. Ran 49.62 this year. Dixon, who's a fast 200-meter runner, is certainly off into her stride well, but Quiro going well outside her in the maroon colors. Richardson of Canada also well. There's not much to choose between these at the moment. Those three, but on the outside also Deneen Howard of the USA, rather, in lane 7 going well. Quiro now just beginning to pull back that stagger on Gillian Richardson outside her. But also Diane Dixon is up with her, pretty well stride for stride as they come round the bend. It must be Dixon just shading slightly ahead. Quiro's, though, has got the strength from an 800-meter runner. She's probably the world's best at that event at the moment. And if Cuba were to suddenly appear in the Olympic Games the last minute, she might be a favourite at both events. But Dixon and Quiro stride for stride down the home straight. What a fine race this is. Richardson trying to hold on to them. Howard coming up well at the end, but the strength between those two, I think it's just Quiro who got there ahead of Dixon. A fine race between the two of them. 50.48 the time given, and it was probably, Frank, the strength of Quiro that told in the end.
Certainly was. A bit difficult for the 400 metres people tonight because they do have this wind up the back straight. For those of you not too familiar with the techniques of 400 metres running, if you're going to have a breeze at all, you want it with you in the first 200 metres. They've got it into the faces, and I think that's what's possibly shading the time down a bit. But a great home straight here, bags of control, and you're quite right. 800 metres power and endurance is what takes her to the tape in the lead.
3 laps to go in this 3,000 metres steeplechase. Zakowski of Poland, their national champion, leads. But the big interest here, as far as the home crowd are concerned, is the man running in 3rd place there, all in blue, the blonde Belgian William van Dijk, the world bronze medalist, and the man who set the Belgian record on this very track in this same meeting 2 years ago. Just behind him in 4th, in the white vest and black shorts, is one of Britain's trio of representatives in the Olympic Games team. There he is, number 96, Eddie Wedderburn, the Tipton Harrier, who was 3rd in the Olympic trials. A good class field here, as the experienced Pole gives up the lead at this stage to number 54 there, Raymond Panier, the Frenchman. Dramatic shot of the water jump as Panier goes in front. Wedderburn is 2nd, Van Dijk is 3rd. Then in 4th place is another Frenchman, Bruno Le Stam, a regular visitor to Britain, and the other British representative in this field, number 113 there, the 21-year-old Scotsman Tom Hanlon in the multicoloured kit, in about 6th place.
I'm delighted actually that Tom's doing the circuit and steeplechase following the trials. He may not have booked his ticket to get to the Olympic Games, but this is a great way to get a real apprenticeship in for future development. He's got a great future, this kid. He's fast over the 1,500 metres. He's a good technician in steeplechase, and these races are going to stand him in very good stead for the future.
Panier leads then. Van Dijk 2nd, as the public address system urges the crowd to roar him on. The Belgians quite unashamedly patriotic when it comes to this meeting, and why not? Panier leads, Van Dijk 2nd, Wedderburn 3rd, Le Stam is in 4th, and then Hanlon 5th.
Well, quite right to be patriotic and to have a lot of involvement in this race, because one of the greatest Belgian athletes of all time was a world figure in this competition, Gaston Rollins.
At the bell then, Panier leads and is stretching away from Van Dijk, with Le Stam still in 3rd. Wedderburn now back to 4th, Hanlon is 5th. Ivan Huff of the United States has moved through to 6th, ahead of another Frenchman, Mahmoud.
And Hanlon putting a lot of pressure on down the back straight now. I think this guy's going to run for the first 3 places.
But the battle, as far as the home crowd are concerned, is up there between number 54, Raymond Panier, and 51, the Belgian Van Dijk. The 27-year-old world bronze medalist looks to have left a dangerous gap, though. He's only had a couple of low-key races this year, Van Dijk, and certainly this is not the performance he would have been hoping for in front of his home crowd. But Panier, who came to Britain and won in the match in Portsmouth earlier in the season, is on his way to a very impressive victory over a good quality field. With another Frenchman, Lustam, in third place. Van Dijk in second place, rather. Van Dijk will take third, Hanlon fourth. The winning time, 8 minutes, 17.36. The lineup for the men's 200 meters, and it's almost like the final of the American Championships here. No fewer than 6 United States athletes in the field. Floyd Hurd in 1, James Butler in 2, Henry Thomas in 3, Albert Robinson in 4, Joe DeLoach in 5, Calvin Smith in 6, and then the 2 exceptions, Fisher of Belgium in 7, and the 37-year-old Don Quarry of Jamaica running in lane 8. Chief interest in the performance of Joe DeLoach, the 21-year-old who defeated Carl Lewis in the American Olympic trials. Also in the picture there, all in black, Calvin Smith, former world record holder over 100 meters, back to his very best, and a very good start is made by him, third from the left. James Butler going well on the inside, all in blue. And also nearest to the camera, Joe DeLoach, and it's DeLoach it is who wins it. Calvin Smith in second, and then James Butler took third. 20.03 seconds for the 21-year-old DeLoach.
Yeah, well, that was a great piece of running. The trick in 200 meters is to try not to sprint flat out from the gun to the tape. Otherwise, you burn out about 50 meters from the line. The idea is to come out fast, a good, comfortable start, get into your sprinting, and then, as it were, run in overdrive for the bulk of the bend. That's exactly what DeLoach did here. Came out fast, picked up his rivals, and then held his form round the bend. As he comes off the bend, instead of trying to drive into the track by pushing it away behind you, the idea is to lift the knees fast and light, just as he's doing here. Picks up through the bend, lifts the knees fast and light, and then from now on, the idea is to hold positive, good form. He runs tall, shoulders down, good arm action, and runs a full-blooded sprint stride all the way to the line. Great form, great relaxation. This guy has got a great future.
The men's 1,500 meters, and this really ought to be one of the great races of the night. Indeed, one of the most outstanding contests of the season, because the lineup of 12 athletes includes some of the all-time greats, including that quartet from Great Britain of Steve Cram, Peter Elliott, Steve Crabb, and Steve Ovett. The organisers have provided 2 pacemakers in the American Washington and Hugo Werf of Canada, who've been asked to take them through at world record schedule. Tense moments. Steve Cram still not fully recovered from the stomach upset which affected him before his 800 meters performance in Zurich. 3 3/4 laps of the track then, and the crowd here at the Heysel Stadium will really come to life for this race. They appreciate great middle distance runners, and they really have got a crop of some of the finest of all time here. A little bit of a clash there between the Dane Goldberg and Steve Cram as they jostle for positions towards the rear of the field. Washington and Hugo then, the Canadian, out in the 2 leading positions. And Joe Falcon of the United States, let's not discount him, second to Saide Wita over a mile in Zurich. The small American, he's just 22, and he's the man they hope will revitalize their middle distance future. Wearing number 71, the tiny figure there in third. So all eyes on the clock, as well as the big names in this field. The fastest time in the world this year, incidentally, held by Saide Wita, 3:32.69.
And the pace is indeed quick, 55.78 for the first 400 meters.
Frank Dick.
Yes, it's interesting to work out what's going through people's minds in this. Cram, Crabb and Elliott all looking at each other and trying to work out how each is going to run in a few weeks' time in the Olympic Games. But they've now taken this race by the scruff of the neck, and I figure that all 3 boys are heading for very fast times tonight.
Washington and Hugo, the 2 pacemakers in first and second place. Then it's Cram, then Elliott, then Crabb. The British athletes filling the next 3 places behind the pacemakers. Then a big gap to Sidney Marie and Steve Ovett.
Well, the pacemakers are certainly making it quick. They're coming up to 800 metres now, 1:51.88, and that is really very fast indeed. It's very close to world record schedule.
Well, they're really poking it along, and Steve Cram and Elliott and Crabb are not far off that pace. You can see them now biting into this pacemaker in the front. I think, I'll say, all three boys going for a fast time. If Steve's not careful, he's going to have a world record here tonight.
Hugworth of Canada, Cram of Great Britain, Elliott of Great Britain, Crabb of Great Britain. And then Marcus O'Sullivan, the Irishman, behind the British trio. It's going to be a very spectacular time indeed, this. And it's going to be a very spectacular race over the final 400 metres.
And it looks to me as though Peter Elliott is determined to make sure that his name is well stamped in the record books after tonight. He's not letting Steve Cram have his own way in this race at all.
Steve Cram, with that lengthening stride, gets away from the rest of the field, but not significantly yet away from Peter Elliott. So it's Britain's first, second and third in this world-class field.
And this is where Steve's power is beginning to bite now. He's not losing his stride length. Peter's not being lost too quickly, but is being lost. Steve's right back on his very best form here.
Steve Cram looking majestic and magnificent. The world record, 3:29.46. Steve Cram in the form of his life here, and the crowd urging him towards the line. It's been a magnificent run by Cram, and he wins it. Elliott second, O'Sullivan came through to take third, Goulberg fourth, Crabb fifth, Marie sixth. The time obviously not the world record that Steve Cram would have hoped for in a race as fast as that, but significantly it's a magnificent performance and a victory. And incidentally, Steve Ovett didn't finish the race.
Yeah, but if you think about it, Steve's come here with this bug from altitude. We saw what happened in Zurich. He's still not back to full form. And if some guy is running 3:30 and a bit off form, what on earth is he going to be like in Seoul?
And let's not forget that he's had this stomach upset, and he was telling me today he's still not fully recovered from it. Goodness me, what kind of form would he have been in this week if he'd been 100% fit? We are looking at a man whose performances in the last 3 days will frighten the rest of the world into respecting him in both distances in Seoul.
3:30.97, then the world's fastest, and I've clocked Peter Elliott in a personal best too at 3:32.8. Steve Crabb, of course, was passed by O'Sullivan and Goulberg in the end. He still ran 3:35-ish, but what a run and what a week for Steve Cram. At the bell, it's Cyril Lavanture leading in the 5,000 metres. 12:19 at the bell. Jose Regalo of Portugal is second. Then John Doherty of Ireland, formerly a British international, used to run for Leeds City. Now has declared his Irish nationality, and he's just ahead of Yobes Ondieki of Kenya. These four, some 50 metres ahead of the rest of the field, originally 20 strong. Meanwhile, there's a fascinating battle going on with the long jump, but we're back with these pictures now. And Regalo, who's won 4 races out of 4 this year, looks very good. One of the favourites was sold. John Doherty, though, also battling against him. Regalo opening up a lead. Doherty, who was so impressive when he went in Stockholm and set the world's best there, is now fading backwards, though. Ondieki coming up. Regalo looks round. Regalo looks very good indeed. The Portuguese really going well, and his form this year indicates that he's likely medal candidate. He's shown that here today. He hasn't run the big meetings till now. He comes out and he wins the 5,000 metres in style, 13:15.63, the fastest in the world to date, and it looks so easy for the Portuguese man. Jose Regalo, a new man name to note.
The 1,500 metres didn't let us down. It produced the goods and more. And I'm quite sure this outstanding field for the 800 metres will be equally memorable. A couple of very interested spectators there, Steve Cram and Peter Elliott, watching from the sidelines. The men's 800 metres then, 2 laps of the track, and it has got to be very quick, I would think. Johnny Gray is a committed front runner. He produced one of the fastest times for many years with his performance in Zurich. 2:67 is Lewis Johnson of the United States. 1:11 in the long shorts is Johnny Gray. Side A-Wheater at the moment, right at the back of the field, as McKean has moved through behind Gray. So Lewis Johnson ensuring a fast pace. Gray is second. McKean is third. David Sharp, also well placed. And at the moment, all eyes wondering when Awita is going to move up, and he is doing so now. The time at the bell, 49.26.
And back to Awita in 4th place at 50.7.
So what a race this is proving to be. The pacemaker certainly led them through very fast indeed, and steps aside now to let his American colleague Johnny Gray hit the front. Awita, who started well back, has moved stealthily through the field and is now within striking distance. 2.75 there is the Kenyan Sami Kosgei in 3rd place in the red shorts. Gray leads, Awita moving up on him, Kosgei in 3rd. What a finish this is going to be. Johnny Gray must know that that little figure, all in yellow, is closing behind him. And Gray has seen him now and has responded again. But Awita has got in front, and it's a phenomenal performance. Awita wins it. Gray was second, 1:44.37, and Said Awita has beaten the man who has been the best 800-meter runner of the year so far. Tony Morrell, incidentally, a fine run by him to take 3rd.
Without doubt, one of the most versatile athletes in the world, Said Awita. And I have finally got that pronunciation right. But the most interesting aspect, Brendan Telfer and Keith Quinn have joined us now for a brief discussion before the right stuff, is, of course, Steve Cram's performance. I mean, that was quite devastating.
It was a performance right out of the box with perfect timing from Cram. There's been a big question mark over Cram since he performed so abysmally at the World Championships last year, where he finished 8th. He's been beaten a number of times this year. A lot of people in British athletic circles were saying that is it over for Steve Cram, and that Said Awita would bolt it in the 1500 metres at Seoul. That performance of Cram's coming now, just 3 or 4 weeks before the Olympic Games, has really made that 1500 metre race a prospect as appetising as the 100 metres. You've got Abdi Bile, the world champion, you've got Said Awita, and now you've got Steve Cram right back into his very best form, and a man who's seen a lot of track and field over the years. Keith Quinn, pick a winner from those 3.
Well, I don't know.
Who'd be so brave to do that?
Exactly, it's very difficult, but I think that after seeing the World Championships last year and seeing the way Abdi Bile in a very fast race finished well, I think I'd go for Bile to beat Cram. But who knows? One thing I hope is that we see a fast Olympic Games final. Is that possible?
Well, I'm sure with Awita in there we will. In fact, I'll be very surprised if either Cram or Bile can edge out Said Awita. He is the athlete.
This year's 16 Grand Prix meetings carried over $1 million in prize money. Now, the circuit concluded with the Grand Prix finals in Berlin this weekend. It was also the final opportunity for many athletes to gain competition before the forthcoming Seoul Olympics. And oddly enough, the athlete attracting most attention at Berlin will not be going to Seoul. Sebastian Coe lined up in the 800 metres, but one of his rivals was Tom McKean, a Scottish athlete who's deprived Coe of a place in the British team for Seoul. Our commentator is Stuart Story.
The line-up: Böttcher of the Federal Republic of Germany in lane 1, Groudin of the Soviet Union in 2, Sebastian Coe of Great Britain in lane 3, Tom McKean of Great Britain in 4, Moussa Fall of Senegal in 5, Kwizera of Burundi in 6, Morel of Great Britain in 7, and Larbi of Morocco in 8. Sebastian Coe, the holder of 9 outdoor world records in his time, 3 indoor world records too. What an athlete. He doesn't go to Seoul, but he's here with something to prove. Larbi on the outside, already overtaken by Tony Morel of Great Britain. Kwizera going well, 3 from the outside. So is Tom McKean. He's holding off Moussa Fall at the moment. And on the inside, Böttcher of the Federal Republic, who may be in there as a pacemaker, although he hasn't got clear, and that doesn't seem to be his role. Moussa Fall gets into the lead. Böttcher in second place. McKean punching his way through into second now. Larbi of Morocco in third place. Sebastian Coe moving smoothly onto the outside of McKean's shoulder. Morel there in the background, and so is Kwizera, one of the early leaders. It's not fast. In fact, it's very, very slow. And Moussa Fall looks and sees who's coming, and it's Kwizera. Kwizera leads, McKean in second place. Coe in third, Moussa Fall in fourth. Larbi in fifth, Morel in sixth, Böttcher in seventh, and Groudin of the Soviet Union is in eighth place, and he's right off the pace at the moment. Now, what can Coe do? He's going to take it on. And McKean responds, and they both tuck Quizera on the inside, and Quizera won't give way. McKean leads, Quizera in second place, Coe in third, Musafal in fourth, Larby in fifth, and Morel in fifth now, Larby in sixth, and Groudon of the Soviet Union in seventh, and the West German way out of it. And they hit the last straight, and Coe is poised. McKean is going away, but Coe is closing. And Quizera in third place, Musafal in fourth. McKean's going to hold on, and McKean wins it. Coe in second place, Quizera in third, Musafal in fourth, 1:47.62. It's not fast, and Tom McKean has brought off a victory he really wanted. He's beaten his idol, Sebastian Coe. Well, there's the lineup for the men's 100 metres. Linford Christie is pulled out at the last minute, and Mardy goes into his lane. And there's Calvin Smith of the United States in lane 4. There's Schlitt in 2, Mary Rose, then Smith, then Emo, then Cooper, Sanguma and Franks. And Cooper's got away. And Smith stumbled out of the blocks, and he's left. And Cooper being chased by Emo, and Smith coming through. Smith wins it. Emo in second place, Cooper in third. At least that's how it looked. And, well, what can you say about Calvin Smith's start? We'll get a look at that in a moment. He really did have a poor start, and really he was way out of it. And what must Brian Cooper of the United States have thought? The conditions not good, as you can see, and Smith slipped. We'll try and get a look at that in a moment. And the congratulations well deserved here, because Calvin Smith has shown that he's a threat to Ben Johnson and Carl Lewis. Look, in lane 4 from the right, he slips, he almost falls, and Brian Cooper in lane 6 in the dark strip with a white stripe gets away from Emo, and Calvin Smith is 2 meters down. The big Frenchman Mary Rose is running well, but he fades here too. And watch Calvin Smith come through. Smith comes through to win it. Emo just in second place. 10.12 for Smith. What a run. Oh, just over 2 laps to go in the 5,000 metres, and the two principals have led this field right from the start. Liz McColgan of Great Britain, bound for Seoul in the 10,000 metres, leads one of the great athletes of all time, Ingrid Christensen of Norway. Christensen, a marathon runner, 10,000 metre runner, world record holder at 5,000 metres at this event at 14:37.33. And all of a sudden this season, McColgan has found a new life. She's the world's #1 at this event this year with a best time of 15 minutes 10.17. And really, she's showing the sort of form that could take her to Olympic gold in Seoul in the near future. They're running just outside 15-minute pace at the moment. And look at the gap now. And wonder what Christensen can do here. There's a grimace on her face. She really is struggling. Jill Hunter of Great Britain's in there, so is Annette Sargent of France and Hofflinger of Switzerland, but that battle is way, way, way behind these two girls. And whilst McColgan didn't go away with the burst, she's slowly but surely put a foot down on the accelerator. And look at that, with 1 lap to go. The margin now 20 metres. Dundee and Hawkhill Harrier, coached by John Anderson, who won the 10,000 metres in Oslo in a United Kingdom record of 31 minutes 6.9. Well, that is the sort of class that she's now showing over 5,000 metres. And the margin is growing and growing. And look at the crowd in the background. The applause really signalling a great, great performance. And for Britain, it could be a gold in Seoul if McColgan can keep up this sort of performance. She really is showing marvellous, marvellous form. And this is going to be well under 70 seconds, this last 400 metres. She's storming into the straight. And the crowd acknowledging a great, great performance. The bell has gone. The finishing tape is near. And she's won it. 15:3.30. And she has a little look. Where's Christensen? Christensen is there. And Jill Hunter of Great Britain's running well to take third place. and Annette Sargent of France fourth. You see them just finishing. Opplinger of Switzerland coming into 5th place, but the celebrations go on. 51 points to her credit overall in the Grand Prix standing. But her thoughts will be on those Olympic Games. There's the time. And there's the evidence of another $10,000 win. The 110 metres high hurdles, 10 barriers at 3 feet 6. There's the lineup. Jürgen Schock of the Federal Republic of Germany in lane 2. Lane 1 not being used. Tony Campbell of the United States in 2. Kozewski of the Federal Republic of Germany in 4. And Kingdom of the United States in 5. Mathen of the Federal Republic of Germany in 6. And Nat Page of the United States in 7. This is Roger Kingdom, the Ironman. 25 years old, the American champion who won their Olympic trials. Is the reigning Olympic champion too, and this season run 12.97. Well, Campbell last to rise, and Campbell's going well, and here comes Kingdom. Campbell leading at the moment, and Kingdom in 2nd place, and Kozewski of the Federal Republic in the centre, going well. But look at Kingdom go. Kingdom wins it, Campbell in 2nd place, and it was Kozewski of the Federal Republic, the 21-year-old in 3rd, and the time given there, 13.28, and that's fast because the conditions are not good. Roger Kingdom, well appreciated here, and look at the power in those shoulders. He's a man who doesn't need the fast start, but he's very deceptive. Kingdom powers his way over those last hurdles, hits it, but it doesn't disturb his rhythm. And this is the man to beat in Seoul. Well, there it is. Oh, and 13.04. He dipped under the beam, so it was Campbell's time at 13.28. Well, the athletes out for the mile. Saïda Ouita of Morocco runs on the inside lane to begin with, at least. Sydney Marie, look at the names. Jim Spivey, Hogan Gulberg, Hacksteiner of Switzerland. But the man that all eyes will be on is Saïda Ouita, world record holder at 1,500 metres. He doesn't hold the world record for this event. That's in the hands of Steve Cram, 3:46.32, set in 1985. It's quite a quick start, this. And Klaus-Peter Nabine going into the lead, with Gulberg of Denmark in 2nd place. I can see Gonzalez, Jose Gonzalez there, and so is Baumann of the Federal Republic of Germany in 3rd. And this is quite a fast pace being set by Nabine, and quite clearly he's there to hot up the pace. Marcus O'Sullivan is there, Marie is near the end of the field, and Saïda Ouita staying out of trouble at the moment. Jim Spivey in 4th place, Nabine from Gulberg, and these two are setting out the pace for the rest to follow. 1:57, Marcus O'Sullivan of Ireland, then Sydney Marie. Spivey's there, Baumann's there. And look at Saïda Ouita, quite clearly not in the record business tonight. Now starting to make his way forward. And Nabine, who's doing the job up front, the difficult job. 28, was 7th in the mile in Zurich, incidentally. Got a best at 3:56.02. So this pace, I suppose, is about that. It may be a bit quicker. So Nabine leads, Gulberg in 2nd place, and Marcus O'Sullivan is 3rd, Spivey's there, Baumann's there, and here comes Saïda Ouita. Ouita moving up now into 3rd place. Ouita, who really has the class over distances from 800 metres to 10,000 metres. Tucked in on the inside, Marcus O'Sullivan, wearing 1:57. He's got a best of 3:52.5 this season. Spivey looking comfortable at the moment. So is Sydney Marie. Sydney Marie now 31, 3rd in the trials, the US Olympic trials at 5,000 metres. Was 1st in Malmo, 1st in Monaco, and 1st in the International Athlete Club 3,000 metres. So he's in form at the moment. And Ouita tucks in. Happy to let Gulberg of Denmark do the job. Gulberg's best 3:35.32, so he's a good athlete in his own right. Gonzalez is in 3rd place, Marcus O'Sullivan in 4th, Sydney Marie in 5th. Here comes the German Baumann, followed by Spivey. And Baumann now moves into 4th place. Well, the pace has settled down and no records on here. And Goldberg content to keep it going. He was 2nd in the 1500 metres in Nice, 4th in Brussels, 5th in Zurich, and really that's quite a pedigree. And watch the bunch, Spivey coming through. Spivey to challenge Goldberg. And on the outside, Hacksteiner. So Goldberg, Spivey, Hacksteiner's there, all surrounding Awita. And there's O'Sullivan, and Gonzalez is still there. Baumann in, what, 7th place at the moment, moving up on the inside of Gonzalez. Now the pace is going. Hacksteiner now taking on Goldberg, and Goldberg responds on the inside. Awita is in a good position in 3rd place at the moment. He's outside Spivey, and Spivey's trapped. And Spivey has to pull up a little. And Gonzalez is behind him. Now Goldberg's gone back. And it's Hacksteiner who leads. And here comes Awita in full command. Awita's going to win this. Hacksteiner in 2nd place at the moment. Spivey in 3rd. Gonzalez in 4th. And Goldberg in 5th. The time doesn't matter. It's a very fine win indeed for Saeed Awita. 3:56.22. It was the pace we suggested earlier, and the man at the top, the man all athletes would like to be. There's the confirmation, 3:56.21. And Awita, 54 points for $10,000. Oh, Sergei Bubka, 3rd and final attempt at 5 meters and 90 in the vault. Oh, he's failed. And he's beaten by teammate Gataulin. Well, the world champion has gone. Well, the crowd anticipating something big in the pole vault because Gataulin is attempting 5 meters and 95. And if he clears this, it will be a great victory indeed. He has, and look at the margin by which he cleared it. The 3rd best vault of all time. Well, Gataulin has been inconsistent in the past, but here he's showing that he's getting it right at the right time in the season. He rides the pole beautifully. Rotates about the shoulders. Look at the turn of the arms and the strength as he lifts himself up over that bar. And the margin by which he clears it is significant. He is a 6-meter vaulter as well as Bubka, that's clear. I wonder how long it'll be before he achieves it. There's the result, a win for Gataulin. How often do you see Bubka in 2nd? Well, the girls out for the 1500 meters. Paula Ivan of Romania. Constantine of Romania. The Romanians in very good form at the moment. Ellie van Hulst of Holland. Doina Melinti is there. There's Ellie van Hulst, number 220 in that orange vest. And right on the outside is Kovacs of Romania. And she's now in 2nd place behind Paula Ivan. Ivan has got a best of 3 minutes, 56.22 this season, is the Romanian record holder and champion, the Balkan champion at 800 and 1500 meters. And when I read out the statistics, she was 1st in Brussels, 1st in Zurich, 1st in Nice, 1st at Crystal Palace. She was the 1987 World Student Games champion. Well, I wonder who's going to beat her in Seoul. Margit Klinger of the Federal Republic of Germany in 2nd place. And the pace all down to Paula Ivan. 2:24. That's Ruth Visocki of the United States. Ellie van Hulst in the red vest is next to her. Kirsty Wade of Great Britain is in there as well. And Kirsty Wade now in 2nd place. So Paula Ivan of Romania leads. Kirsty Wade in 2nd place. Klinger of the Federal Republic in 3rd. Ellie van Hulst in 4th. Ruth Visocki of the United States, now 31, in 5th place. And this is a very brave run indeed by Kirsty Wade of Great Britain. She's 26, best of 4:05.33, way behind Ivan's personal best. And she must be gambling that if she can hold on, then she can achieve a personal best here. Ruth Visocki, you just saw moving into 3rd place, or attempting to, but Ellie van Hulst will have none of that. Klinger next to her. The rest of the field out of it at the moment. Ivan has 45 points in the Grand Prix so far, so really she's going to be very, very difficult to beat in this individual event and in the overall Grand Prix standing. But what about Kirsty Wade? United Kingdom 800-meter record holder, 1:57.42. All right, it was in 1985, but this is the sort of form that could take her back to those sort of figures. A personal best just outside 4 minutes. So she really is in unknown territory. There's the time, 2:07, just over 2:07 for 800 meters. So Ivan is really pushing this pace along. She really runs it as she wants to run it. She's so much better than the rest, at least on paper. And Kirsty Wade now has opened up a gap of about 40 meters on the girl in third place, who is now Rusocki of the United States. And Rusocki, incidentally, was second in Cologne and third in Zurich, so that gives you some idea of how good Kirsty Wade's performance is here. But Paula Ivan always looks an awkward runner, but she has great strength. And there's the bell. 1 lap to go, 2:57.36. So it's a fast one. And look at that. Wade now beginning to lose contact. And the battle for the places is on. But look at the leaders. Ivan is going away further and further and further, and this is where Kirsty Wade is beginning to pay. She's got about 250 meters to go. Now, can she keep this form up to stay in second place? She's not going to touch Ivan. Ivan's away. The Romanian record holder, the fastest girl in the world this year, is showing the form that, well, I think is unbeatable when it comes to Olympic running. She's going to take the Grand Prix title, that's for sure. And it's Constantine of Romania who's had a very fast last 400 meters to challenge Ellie van Hulst. Ellie van Hulst in third place. Ivan wins it and wins it well, just outside 4 minutes. In second place, Constantine of Romania. Then Ellie van Hulst of Holland. 4:00.24 for Ivan. And $10,000.
And it's fairly likely that Paula Ivan will be one of the stars at Seoul, so look out for her. Much food for thought there. Saeed Awita looking as good as ever.
Felt the gold medal in her hands at about the 60-metre mark. That's when the smile broke into her face. What a contrast to the look on the face of Carl Lewis, her compatriot yesterday, or Ben Johnson for that matter. One impassive and the other looking rather distressed for most of their race. But Florence Griffith-Joyner in a delightful mood throughout most of that race. She knew at the 60-metre mark that the race was over and the gold medal was hers.
And let's say that if she's got her moment of jubilation here, she's worked for it. After the last Olympic Games, she was short of money. She had to drop out of the sport. She certainly hasn't always been a big money athlete. She was working as a bank teller in the day. Oh, here's Evelyn Ashford. Oh, giving her congratulations, a mixture of unhappiness but delight. How must she feel? She's lost the gold medal, but it's gone to a compatriot. Evelyn Ashford, certainly a very courageous loser. Back to Griffiths-Joyner, who was working as a hairdresser in the evening and doing her training under Bob Kersey at 11 o'clock at night. She's certainly worked for this victory. She's put in a new kind of effort in weightlifting and in speed work. She's trained at those kinds of hours. It's come again from graft and determination over a very long period of time. And the moment of joy and jubilation has rewarded all of that as Florence Griffiths-Joyner goes around almost wrapped in her American.
He's absolutely delighted at the sight of his wife winning the gold medal at the moment.
Florence Griffith-Joyner and her husband Al with us here at sidelines, and congratulations, Florence. You always had the beauty, the talent. Now you are #1. It's indisputable.
Oh, I feel so good that that it's over. I ran the 100. I wasn't chasing the time. I was just chasing the win. That gold medal, that's the first for me in the Olympics, and I'm just thankful to God that it's over, and it felt good doing it.
When did you feel like you took over?
From the start. I felt I had a good start, and in the middle I didn't see anyone, so I relaxed, concentrated on what I had to do, and then when I knew no one was going to catch me, I just started smiling because I knew the race was over.
All right,